All right, welcome. This is Once and Future Church. My name's David Larson. I'm going to do something a little different today, and I'm going to look at a video by two YouTubers I really respect, Peter Santello, I believe his name is, and Mark Laita. They both have their own channels. They both really dive into the human condition. So I find their work interesting. Peter, he's gone to the Amish. That was really interesting. He and kind of embedded himself there. He went to see the villages in Florida, which his one on that's fascinating. I've had many misconceptions about that. And then Mark, he's interviewed over 10,000, probably many more than that now, people on Skid Row and told their stories. And it's wild just to see, because I mean, for a lot of people, they're kind of out of sight, out of mind, or they're people who are just kind of scummy people who've just made bad decisions and they deserve to, kind of suffer for the choices they've made. But it's really interesting to hear, all of them, the patterns that come up of almost all of them were abused as children or pimped out. Like the prostitutes often were pimped out by their own parents and sold to sex traffickers. You'd be surprised at what some of the people who live on the street kind of went through before living on the street. But I thought it would be interesting to look at this video where they're together and walking Skid Row, talking about some of what Mark has learned after interviewing 10,000. Well, at this point, I think he says 4,000. So this is maybe earlier on. I'm assuming he still thinks a lot of that same conclusions are there. So let's get right into it.
If we get shot at, we'll just run.
You're well known in these
Pines.
What's the story with this street?
Crack relate.
It was way worse than this.
Much worse, yeah.
Everybody, to a certain extent, they're all lonely. Lonely inside, lonely mentally.
This is the Skid Row police station, and here's drug addicts right here. It was easy for me. Had great role models, had great opportunities. These people had none of that. A lot of people are addicted to the streets. I'm addicted to the wildness. Had guns pulled on my face. I've been conned and robbed every which way you can imagine. Oh, you want me to get a job and shower and get dressed and pay taxes and all that shit? Fuck that. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to fix these people that are broken. And I don't even know if that'll work. It's controversial, but I think about this a lot.
You have to change the way you think before you can make better decisions.
So if you're listening on the podcast instead of the video, basically he's talking to them. They're showing scenes of what's going on in Skid Row. They have a resident of Skid Row with them, a black gentleman who lives there, who is going to help show them around and help them to try to be safe by following the specific rules. That guy knows what to do and what not to do, so he's going to kind of be their guide through it while they have their discussion. So it'll be the three of them.
All right, guys, here we are, downtown Los Angeles, downtown Skid Row, 6th Street, here with Mark Laita. Many of you know Mark from his YouTube channel, Soft White Underbelly. Mark gets into people's stories, those living on the fringes, drug addicts, prostitutes, gang members, and C-Note, who knows the streets really well down here. We're going to walk around. We're going to get an understanding from Mark and C-Note about the homeless, and Corey. Corey's over there on the bike.
These guys know Skid Row as well as anybody. Everybody makes a big deal about how we need to fix homelessness. And in LA, it looks really awful, right? You have homeless people living all over the city, even in some really expensive, really nice neighborhoods. But I don't believe the problem is homelessness at all. Because if you peel back the layers, you've got drug addiction behind the homelessness.
Okay.
Like all these people are drug addicts. You have a hard time finding some that aren't. So then you say, oh, the problem is drugs. Like Nancy Reagan said, the problem isn't drugs. So you peel back another layer, and then it's mental illness behind that.
Okay.
And then you can say, oh, the problem is mental illness, but what causes that? So you peel back another layer, and you've got the childhood trauma, the broken families, all that kind of stuff that people went through.
When people say just give...
I'm going to stop it there because I think that's actually, I've watched this once before. And I think that was the most significant line, really, is that he said, after spending a bunch of time here, he no longer thinks that homelessness is the problem of homelessness. because you can peel back these layers, and a lot of people think, oh, we can just give them homes and then that'll solve the problem of homelessness. Well, he said, you peel back that one layer, what do you have right underneath that is pretty much everybody's a drug addict. And, sometimes people don't want to admit that. There are homeless people. Often they're called the sheltered homeless because they're people who are a very different population than the unsheltered. The sheltered homeless are often people who lost a job, they lost their house, they've got a woman who's leaving a husband with her child, and they will accept these rooms and shelters that are often, there's plenty of these rooms because people keep building more and more rooms thinking that the homeless they just need a place to go. These people will flat out refuse that because there's rules. You can't do drugs, this, that, and the other. So they almost should be thought of as two completely separate populations, the sheltered and unsheltered homeless. But what he's talking about here is the unsheltered homeless, the ones who are not going to take a place in a shelter because you peel back the layers and the real issue here is drug addiction. But then he goes further and he says, you peel back another layer under that, what do you have is often mental illness, that they are kind of self-medicating. A lot of them, they are not doing well with anxiety, with depression, with schizophrenia, a lot of them. And some of that's been exacerbated by their drug use. And then he says, well, so you think that's the problem? It's mental illness. So it's not homelessness, it's drug addiction. Actually, it's not drug addiction, it's mental illness. If that's the root. He's saying you go one level below that because you realize that all these people with mental illness, a lot of them that he's interviewed and he's got their story, is that mental illness did not come from nowhere. There's soldiers a lot of the time who have extreme PTSD. There's a lot of people who were sexually abused. There are a lot of people who were completely neglected by their parents. The stories you hear on his channel, frankly, part of the reason I'm playing this is it just says a lot about the human condition and about just what people have to go through on this world. The problem of pain, problem of suffering, that you call it in theology. But people go through the most horrific things you can imagine. They're born, a lot of the people he's interviewed, like I said, were born into situations where their parents weren't married, one leaves, the other abuses them, then the other sells them to a sex trafficker, and they're pimped out on the street of a major city in the United States. This is not a problem in foreign countries only. So just the level of trauma these people have dealt with often leads to confusion and stress, and they break at a level and start trying to treat that mental illness from their trauma with drugs. And so that's the layered onion there that he's talking about. And I'll stop there. But I mean, I think that from this whole video, to me, that's the part I took away the most is just that the complicated, multi-layered nature of the problem of when you see somebody on the streets. Like, sure, they're homeless. Yeah, how do you fix that? Well, okay, they're also drug addicts. Fix that. Actually, they're very mentally ill as well. They have untreated schizophrenia. And then you get a layer beneath that. And it's something you can't really fix, which is horrible trauma that was done to them when they were young.
People homes, you're saying that's not a solution, or that's part of a solution, or what do you think?
Well, no, I mean, it provides a little bit of stability for people. Right. And that's not a bad thing, right? But like up in North Hollywood, they built these like mini homes for people. They provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's basically free housing.
Yeah.
Like they've been giving people free housing here. This building is full of drug addicts.
That's
basically.
all free.
Is the White Guard free? C note? Yeah, so it's basically free housing for people, and there's lots of that down here. Or it's like, $50 a month or something like that.
What about drug rehab? Isn't that going on down here too? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there's that. The problem with rehabs is there to do it right, I think is tremendously expensive, like hundreds of thousands a year, I would think.
Per person?
Per person, yeah.
Don't film.
I'm going to dispute that a little bit because I think you can do it well for much cheaper. I'm a fan of involuntary commitment of people who are living in this way, who have horrible mental issues and drug problems. I think you can involuntarily commit them to rehab and treatment because often they'll commit crimes, horrible crimes, if you don't, as they keep spiraling down. But I don't think the treatment's going to cost you hundreds of thousands a year, like he said. There's a group in my state, organization called TROSA. It's rehab for people. They can live basically in a communal setting, but they have a bunch of businesses. They have Christmas trees. They have resale shops. They have a moving company. They have a lawn care company. All these things, and the people who agree to go there, they don't have to pay a dime for this residential treatment that goes for 2 years, I believe. But they do have to work at these businesses, and it's a nonprofit, so nobody's getting rich off this. The money from that goes to support it. So there are models. My point is that it's not as hopeless as there's no way to treat these people because it would just be too expensive. I do think, especially if you intervene early before drugs and untreated schizophrenia and things like that really eat away at the brain too much and make some things irreversible. I think if you get early in the process, especially involuntarily commit them to a program like that, I think states should really think about doing more of that.
If the camera's pointing at us, is it all right? Or it'll be all right. If we get shot at, we'll just run.
Zito, what's the story with this street?
Crack related.
Crack related.
Okay. Yeah, certain like the San Pedro where we just crossed, that's all spice. You can find some other drugs too, but 99% of it is spice. This
National theme going on here. Boat.
Yeah. This street is mainly crack. There's other areas that are fentanyl.
So you're saying each street takes on its own identity?
Oh, yeah.
Drugs.
Yeah.
The surface is housing. You peel back, you peel back, you peel back. Basically, it's upbringing. Is that what it comes down?
I mean, with the broken families, you can boil that down to like poverty or the greed of the rich, and you just keep peeling back the layers. But when you get to the very, very bottom of it all, I think it's just loving each other. It's just love.
Right.
Love is the answer to all this kind of stuff. Like LA is putting people up in housing.
So, reviewing this as my channel is kind of a Catholic, Christian channel, and so for me that aligns perfectly with what I would think would be the ultimate answer. It's not necessarily like government programs or cracking down more on drugs. Those are probably necessary to fix it. But you get down to the root, and it's a lack of love. It's a lack of having a family where the mom and the dad loved each other and created children in an environment of love. And then they maintained that environment of love, and the kids were raised in that, and they had, healthy boundaries, we're taught discipline, we're taught, they were educated well, and they really were given a sense that I can succeed in this world and I can do well. So if that love's not there as the foundation, everything just crumbles from there, and people are really broken by it. And I think not only, at the foundation of the beginning, but if there's, after they've crumbled, the solution, I think, is also going to be love. It's going to be somebody seeing them in the street, kind of like with Lazarus and the rich man, where Lazarus is just in the street, with nobody to help him, or, Good Samaritan, same kind of thing, where the person's sitting there and nobody's helping them. Who is a neighbor to them? If we're to love our neighbor, it's the person who sees that person, and that's love that is going to fix it. Love's kind of a corny word in English because it's often kind of seen as, about romance and about kind of sappy movies or whatever. But I think the Latin word for caritas, or, agape in Greek, but the idea of just a selfless love where you're loving the other for their own sake and you're willing their good. That's what's being talked about here.
I think they're just doing that just to make it look better.
Okay.
Because it's embarrassing. You come to LA and there's homeless people everywhere in front of your nice house. So that makes it really embarrassing, right? So if you put them all in housing, then it looks better. Here's a block that's full of tents. And this is how all of Skid Row used to be.
Okay.
Now there's probably 40% of the tents are gone because these people are in housing.
It was way worse than this.
Much worse, yeah.
At a street level, it's actually looking...
Oh, it's much better right now.
But that's Skid Row. Santa Monica, where I'm staying, it's worse than I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I don't think they have the same housing there. And a lot of people that left here, or maybe got housing or got kicked out, maybe they relocated to Santa Monica or Venice or North Hollywood or Hollywood.
So is it fair to say, though, there are different types of homeless, those that had the drug addiction issues, like you're saying?
And then mental illness is a huge part of it.
Mental?
I mean,
people honestly fall hard on their luck.
6'4". How tall you is? See, I mean, a lot of the problem is also education. So because that guy's probably not going to get a job at a fast food restaurant or anywhere else, hardware store, because he can't really speak intelligently, then it's just going to make his life harder. So the opportunity inequalities, the education inequalities, the poverty, the broken families, the broken homes, all that stuff leads to the mental illness, which leads to a drug addiction, which leads to homelessness.
You're well known in
Use. That's an interesting point too. So you're walking by somebody and you could necessarily hear that, but somebody said, "How tall you is?" And he said 6'4", and then he kind of, hopefully he was a few steps away when he was like, "Yeah, you see how that guy's completely uneducated and he has no chance in life because of that." But I mean, that's probably true, and a lot of people are raised in situations where they don't have kind of role models that are telling the importance of education. They have an education right there, free, paid for by the government, and often they're just like, it's culturally might be looked down on. I'm of the opinion, kind of like with my involuntary commitment thoughts, is that we need to utilize alternative education more. So if there's 25% of your public school are kids that are way behind, they don't know how to read, they don't know how to speak, they don't know how to write, they don't know math, and they're disturbing the other, they're acting out behaviorally, we need to have more alternative, just remove those kids, send them to a completely different environment where they're not breaking down school for the rest of the kids, but they're also getting more intensive. Like, we're not going to just keep passing you along the social promotion, they call it, where you promote them on to the next grade, even if they don't know how to read yet. I think that's a big problem with this, where you get people who, yeah, they couldn't get a job at a hardware store because they don't even know how to, they wouldn't know how to type in the numbers and read the price tags and all the stuff they need to do. So they're kind of, what are their options at that point?
Not everywhere. I mean, some people, I mean, you see some people say hi to me. There's like an endless supply of people for me to interview here. I could do this for the rest of my life and never run out. There's new people coming in. I'm right down the street from the Greyhound bus station. There's more people coming all the time.
You've been down here 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk on camera? Is that cool? Is there a hierarchy, like someone's in control of one street, someone's in control of another street, or?
I don't know, but I can't talk about.
Okay.
A lot of things can't be talked about.
That's real interesting, though, to think about the power dynamics there. This guy's scared out of his mind. Oh, who's in charge of this street? Who's in charge of that? I can't talk about that. Nope. No, we can't talk about that. Somebody dangerous is what that means. It's this little slice of hell. This one's run by crack dealers. This one's run by meth dealers. This one's run by fentanyl. Is what they're saying. Those people are probably awful. They probably run it like a slave master, where these people all need that drug and they got to do whatever the guy who runs that street tells them to do. So it's terrible.
Yeah. Is there like a connectivity? Is there a family element to it?
We're all family.
Brotherhood.
We're all family around here.
It's one big dysfunctional family.
Yeah, basically. Basically.
So you never go lonely in Skid Row?
Never. Everybody, to a certain extent, they're all lonely. That's why they're down here, more or less. Lonely inside, lonely mentally. You know what I mean? It's an element of a lot of things. That's why people are down here. It's just not drug use. And the drug use is just a way of escape, or not really deal with the issues or that's going on in here.
Right.
And in here.
There's no easy solution, obviously, but what do you...
Solution is the solution is up to the individual, because I can't make a decision for the next individual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They ultimately they have to make their own decisions within themselves. You know what I mean? To either deal with the issues or not to deal with it. You know, this is the result of not dealing with it. Same with me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of issues I have, I choose not to deal with. So yeah. I choose to run around here and act retarded. It's just a temporary fix. This kind of makes the issue even worse. So
how often do you use? If I may ask.
I don't know, every other day, maybe every day. Depends on my mood.
Is fentanyl really come in?
Yeah, fentanyl came in here and just destroyed everything. You know, it's killed a lot of my friends. So
I'm sorry, man.
It's like people that don't even use fentanyl or heroin. Some people, they be mistaking it for crack and smoking it and dying and just all kind of crazy stuff. So
Mark, I'm gonna clip you up.
That's crazy. You know, I am not at all surprised that's the case in Skid Row, but even that's happening in North Carolina where I live. You got people. I heard one sad story from an NC State student about a college student who smoked a joint that was laced with fentanyl. Their college student dead on the beach. But yeah, that's common now. Marijuana not as common, but with other drugs, crack and meth and all of that. Dealers will break up a little bit and put it in with the other drugs. So it's pretty dangerous. Fentanyl's no joke. You can overdose extremely easily. When I was coming up in DC area, a lot of the people I knew started, we all started smoking pot pretty young, and then I stopped that like 20 years ago. But a lot of them started getting into Oxycontin and Percocet and stuff like that. I mean, they got addicted to it, and it was terrible. But about half of them were able to eventually get off of it. Fentanyl is so much stronger than that. It's another complete level of addiction that I think the relapse rate is just off the charts compared to anything from before.
Some pungent smells coming through.
Yeah.
Your toilets are out of here, right?
Yeah, the smells are pretty horrible, pretty hardcore. I don't bring my shoes into the house. I leave.
Where do people go number 2?
In the bathrooms.
Where are the bathrooms?
Paint bucket.
Oh.
Yeah, paint buckets, porters, fastest. Ooh, they don't go up.
There's that one woman that does it right here. She'll do it right here, right in front of you.
You know,
Right.
Just take a dump.
Then at the refresh center right here, where they take shower, wash your clothes, use your bath for all up right there.
There's showers over here.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, they call it the refresh spot.
Okay.
And you can go there and take a shower. You can charge your phone. You can do your laundry. For my project, I was going to Appalachia. Like I started doing that like a year or two ago.
That shows how degraded their humanity can be after living on the streets like that. They have a refresh center that somebody put together right there where they can use the bathroom, come take a shower, do laundry, and people will still choose paint bucket. That's where I'm going to take a crap, or right in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Trying to get away from all the drug story. I'm not that interested in drugs.
Okay.
But I'm down here on Skid Row, and every story is involving drugs. So it looks like I'm a drug channel. So I wanted to get away from that. So I figured, I know about Appalachia. Let me go there and get some like interesting stories. But I go there and it's like 99% drug stories there. It's even worse than here. And they're not able to do anything about it. Here you've got the missions that are giving free clothing. Los Angeles is a wealthy city. A lot of people are donating nice clothing. That's why you see these interviews with people that are dressed really well on my channel.
Right.
But they're homeless. They're as broke as you can imagine. And then missions provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
And there's all kinds of other services, mental health, all that kind of stuff is available here. But in other parts of the country, you don't have any of that stuff. If you were homeless and drug addicted, wouldn't you rather be in California where it's 42 degrees at night rather than Chicago, which is
So it's attracting people.
10 degrees?
It's attracting people from all over the country?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I've heard many, many stories of people like, how'd you get here? Well, the police department in my city kicked me out and put me on a one-way ticket to LA on a Greyhound bus. I've been here for 12 years.
Yeah.
And I don't see it getting any better. With fentanyl, it seems to be even worse.
That's a common thing with cities and states do all the time that would be really interesting to see stats on. But we see that in North Carolina too, from places like New York, where homeless people here will say, yeah, we were put on a bus and sent to North Carolina because they had too many people at the shelters, too many. But same thing in reverse, from red states back to blue states. They're, not to make it political, but you could say the same thing, rural to urban. People just get sent somewhere else to be somebody else's problem. But what are you saying about Appalachia, man? That's definitely true. I have some relatives in Appalachia, and just the level of drug addiction and all of that's pretty wild, and it could be another topic.
More people dying.
Right.
The homeless community is bigger. It's more spread out over the city. 12 years ago, it wasn't in Santa Monica and Venice like it is today.
Mark, in your content, you shot thousands of videos. You're super prolific.
4,000 so far.
4,000, okay. In my content, which I've done a small fraction of that, we go into a lot of issues in society.
Yep.
One thing I find is I don't really ever offer many solutions. I try, but it's easier to show the problem than to show the solution.
Yeah. Here's a great way to look at it. Here on Skid Row, I would say for 90 to 95% of these stories of these people came from homes where dad was in prison, mom was on drugs. And they had no role models. They had nobody to look up to and say, wow, I'm going to be like him one day.
Right.
You really have to like just dwell on that. Did he say 95% of the people he's interviewed? He might be exaggerating, but he's interviewed many thousands of people who are in these kind of situations. Dad was in jail, mom was on drugs. You know, just think about it. It can't be a coincidence. People are responsible for their own actions. So I'm not going to say that's not true. People are responsible. If you become a drug addict, there's definitely a level to which you are responsible. But you also cannot deny the levels of risk to end up in a situation where there's fentanyl in front of you when you're 12, or it's something you got to really wrestle with. Is we can't. There's not really undeserving as Christians. We shouldn't see ever as undeserving, poor, undeserving, homeless when you're thinking about this, because there was a deep trauma that they are very likely to have been, you know, responding to with their lifestyle.
Like I did.
Right.
I could have been a doctor, a lawyer, could have been anything. But, you know, through my mom, I met somebody who was a photographer, and it was like, oh my God, I want to do that. And I did it. It was easy for me. Had great role models, had great opportunities, had a great education, had a stable household. These people had none of that. And until they get that, not these people, but their kids or maybe their kids' kids, nothing's going to change. So that's what has to happen. I made an intro to my channel where I said the government is the answer, but I don't even know what the government's going to do it. I almost think you and I have to do it.
I'm showing it, but I'm not doing it.
Well, I mean, that's one way of doing it. Like my job is, I can't take the responsibility of helping each of the 4,000 people I've interviewed. And if I only, let's say I help those 4,000, what about the 40 other thousand that are out here that I didn't interview?
Right.
They don't get my help. so I can't possibly help 4,000 anyway. So I can create the awareness like you're doing of the problem, and perhaps somebody else can take the job of maybe helping them get stable, and someone else can help them with the food, and someone else can help them with education. And
this is the part of, my politics is fairly, right of center. And, but this is the part of the right of center perspective where we really have to put your money where your mouth is, because a lot of it is, oh, we don't want the government. As he said, I used to think the government was a solution. I no longer think it really can be. It's got to be us. That's what Edmund Burke's little platoons. That's just every free marketeer. That's leave the charity to the private sector. All of that. If we're gonna have that view, then we got to put our money where our mouth is, and we got to, in our own towns and our own places. He's saying we have to do it, because there's people in our towns that were abandoned. There's foster kids that need somebody to look after them. There's people in rehab that need mentors. Yeah, you have to try to heal some of that pain. If everybody takes a little bit of that on them, just a little bit, it's not like you're saying, you can't solve 40,000 addicts here, but you never know if it becomes a cultural thing with a lot of people to really feel this burden. As a Christian, it is something we have to do. Christ says, I don't know you if you're not somebody who gives people water to drink, food to eat, rehab and treatment if you're struggling with your mental health and addiction. So that's definitely something that all of us need to struggle with.
As a society, we can probably make some changes.
It's not just a money problem.
Well, I mean, money is always a huge factor in all these kind of things. It's a complicated problem, and I don't think it's an easy fix. And human nature is to go, let's just find an easy solution to this person. Just get a job and stop doing the drugs. It's a much deeper problem. Yeah, it's going to require a lot of understanding, and that's what I'm hoping to do in my videos. I think you're doing it with yours. Yeah. And that will open up our minds a little bit, and then maybe we can do something to solve the problem. But it's not going to be just like, oh, we just need to provide housing like LA is doing. It's violent down here. There's people getting killed all the time.
Like if we didn't have Sino here, would it be a different story?
At night, I wouldn't want to do this with you. Two white guys walking down here at night, I've had guns pulled on my face. I've been conned and robbed every which way you can imagine. Over the years, I've learned how to avoid those situations.
Oh yeah.
I've gotten better at that. But I find these stories fascinating and interesting. I also feel like if we're ever going to change it, we're going to have to understand it. And I'm helping facilitate that. I've learned a lot by doing these talks, and I think if you watch my channel regularly, you'll learn a lot about how things work or how things are not working. A very good friend of mine who I've known for decades, she reminded me when she saw what I was doing with this channel. So it's funny because I remember going out to dinner with you once, and we were at a street corner in the car. We were in traffic and stopped at a red light, and there was a homeless guy out there panhandling, and I just mumbled underneath my breath, like, just get a job. And she reminded me that I said that, and I don't doubt that I said it. I mean, I still have those thoughts today with some of these people, but when you hear the most horrific stories you can imagine about their childhood. I had a woman come up to me, and I said, I'll just kind of have them run through their story a little bit so I get to know what their story about is before I bring them in. And she goes, well, I was molested by my dad when I was 10 years old. I had his child when I was 11. That's not a good thing.
Right.
When he was saying, oh yeah, I was reminded by a friend of mine that I said, just get a job when I saw a homeless person. And now she's like, yeah, you can kind of see the layers more now that you've been around it. And it's not quite that simple. But I was reminded of a friend of mine who he said something similar, just like, they succeed because they try hard, and the people who don't succeed are just people who just didn't really apply themselves. They didn't, do well in school, and then they decided to be lazy. And I was like, well, a lot of times it's people who didn't have the same connections even, or maybe they weren't born with the same intelligence, or maybe they didn't have a good education because of where they're born, all that, and connections. I said specifically connections, and he was like, oh, I don't know about that. And I was like, well, you have this great job as a partner in this firm that I won't say what it is, but I was like, it wasn't a law firm, but it was another kind of business. And I was like, how did you, for example, your parents are pretty well connected and pretty wealthy. How did you, anybody in that business with the family connection? He's like, yeah, actually the guy who owns it is my dad's college roommate. I'm like, it's kind of clear that there are these elements of good and bad luck, you can say, that are, again, we have our responsibility to do what we can with with what we're given, with your intelligence, with your connections, with the education, all that. But let's not pretend that if you're born in a wealthy family and your dad is connected to somebody and gives you a foot in the door, that's not a kind of a huge thing that other people might not get. Like this girl, he's saying, okay, at 10, my dad started raping me, and at 11, I had his baby. And now I'm here on the streets as a prostitute, addicted to drugs. That stuff does come into play. So I think that's, it's a lot of horrific stories that he goes through. Just talking to the people is just a junkyard of misery.
I don't care how you slice it. That's a hell of a way for a young girl to grow up. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to fix these people that are broken. And I don't even know if that'll work. I spend every dime I make on this channel helping people like that, but I think it's a waste of money ultimately, because if you really want to make a difference,
A lot of this.
constantly.
You really want to make a difference, but
That's what you hear in the background of my videos all the time. If you want to make a difference, I think the way to do it is to think long term. Maybe help their kids or their kids' kids. And the way to do that would be stabilize the households in these poorer communities around the country, not just LA. I mean, I'm talking nationwide and probably worldwide.
right.
And that'll help the family stay together. Why is dad in prison? Because he had to do something illegal to make some money. And why is mom on drugs? Well, she was probably,
Why couldn't you do something legal to make money?
he doesn't have an education. He didn't have any opportunities. He didn't see any role models of things that you could do to make money. He just saw, you hear in my interviews all the time. I just, the only thing they ever saw were, drug dealers, gang members, pimps, and some kind of.
If this is your father and this is what you see as a kid.
Yeah. How are you going to become a doctor or a lawyer? I know it happens. I am sure there are stories where that has happened, but those are the exception.
Yeah, that's tough, because people do have responsibility for what they do, but if your dad's a drug dealer and a gang member and a pimp and that's what you see, then that's what you are to blame for your actions, but you're also much more likely to go down that road. But pretty telling that he says he doesn't think there's a solution, that these people can be fixed, kind of, that you can't really take people that are this broken and just make them into a CEO of a company or a doctor or even maybe somebody who works at Walmart. Maybe not. Uh, so what he's saying a solution is go to try to stabilize the family. It is, also as a Catholic Christian, saying that love is a foundation, but also seeing that after all this time, stabilizing the family is the solution. Having the children are traumatized when they don't grow up in that nuclear family, that's such a foundational thing. That's pretty telling.
Oversimplified solution to a super complex issue would be get the kids, basically go in hard on the resources with the kids.
That's my opinion on how to solve the problem.
You can change that cycle, and maybe 20 years you'll start to see some results out of that.
That's what I believe, but I don't think that trying to fix all these poor broken people on the streets is going to amount to anything good.
It costs you both of me. Take a picture of me.
So I mean, I understand these people need help, but the only people I've seen really help themselves or really improve their situation, especially when they're addicted, are the people who just silently and quietly did it by themselves. There have been a few people that I've interviewed who just disappeared. And I get in touch with them, and they like, so what's going on? Oh, I went back to Chicago, where he was from. Alex, one of the guys I interviewed early on, he got into a program, and he stopped using fentanyl, which is like the hardest drug to stop using. But he did it. He didn't do it because I gave him a ton of money. He didn't do it because somebody, his family probably helped him. I'm sure they did.
What's a D-Day?
A decision-making day. Sometimes you just have a decision-making day where, I'm going to decide to do this or I'm going to decide to do this. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it is you have to change the way you think, you know what I mean, before you can make better decisions. I don't know.
You ever had a D-Day?
I have D-Days every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Wait, so you're still on Skid Row?
Yeah, because I haven't made a decision to leave here. You know what I mean? I have to change my...
And this is the part that gets depressing for a lot of people who have addiction, is they come to a lot of these D-Days and they're like, today is the day that I'm never going to do this thing again. And I've had this with, obviously not fentanyl or anything, but more minor addictions to things, including just the internet or whatever. But you draw some red line where you're like, today is the day I'm not doing this. And then if you stop for a couple days and then fail, and then maybe, a month later you try again, another decision, you start to lose confidence in yourself. And I think that's one of the things that really gets to a lot of these addicts is they've decided with everything they've had, their will's just not strong enough to defeat the drug. That's why I think involuntary commitment is what they need, just because they're the best part of themselves that they really are trying to have conquer the drug is saying, I don't want this. This is a horrible, miserable life. But the drug is stronger than their will.
Thinking the way I think a little bit every day.
Are you scared to be somewhere else?
No, never.
But a lot of people are addicted to the streets.
Yeah.
They love it down here. You give them an opportunity to leave. You give them housing. You give them a car. You give them a job. You get them everything they need.
It's the wildness. I'm addicted to the wildness.
And they come back here.
I'm addicted to the wildness. I can wild out if I want to. If I wild out, and we say regular land, it's consequences.
It's a lack of responsibility that's attractive. It's the freedom. I don't have to get up and do anything today except get my fix and screw off for a day. And that's every day. And once you've been doing that for a long time, then it's like, oh, you want me to get a job and get a haircut and shower and get dressed and go to work and all that and pay taxes and all that shit? That. It's not your typical person down here.
And that's also why I was saying the difference between sheltered homeless and unsheltered homeless. That's also why you can't really get the unsheltered homeless into the shelters often, because they want to while out on the streets. They got sort of a pattern, they don't have to answer to anybody. They can just kind of do the thing that they want to do in that moment. So they don't really have the skills. They're tired of failing in the regular land, and they just leave me alone.
Because he is a little more more of an upstanding citizen than most, right? You do have a roof over your head. Is it one of the hotels here?
So I could see a lot of these people, if you put them in a 1-bedroom in Santa Monica,
They're gonna come back.
they're going to be
come right back.
They're going to be bored, right?
They're gonna come right back. It's like, I hear this a lot from the women, the people that work with sex trafficked women.
Right.
And you get them out and you protect them, you give them everything they need to get their lives together, and they run back to their pimp. Why would they do that? Because they don't believe they deserve anything better.
They don't have that sense of being needed.
There's that too, yeah.
Purpose?
I have a family, so I have to keep going for them. You know what I mean?
Okay,
I can totally all the way give up. But then what that's gonna do?
Gotcha. You got kids?
Yes,
Okay. How many?
9.
9. Wow, you're prolific.
I've been married. You know what I'm saying? I had 3 from my first girlfriend and 3 from my wife. Then, like when we was in between those, I had a couple of them. You know what I'm saying?
9 kids, and he's like, a couple over here, a couple over there, different woman, different. We're talking about, trying to create another generation that is in a loving, stable family. This dude, he's nice enough to show him around and everything, protect him while they're down there. But he says he uses every day or every other day, probably multiple times a day. He's trying to like sound better, but he likes to go wild on the streets where he doesn't have any responsibilities, using drugs every day. He's probably not going to take care of those 9 kids. Those 9 kids are going to have a lot of the same issues that he had.
So, couple girlfriends, but all of my relationships my kids come from long-term relationships. It's not that I was.
Where are your kids now? They're down here?
Yeah, they're here.
Okay.
They're not down here, but they in L.A.
Oh, they're in LA.
Yeah, they're not down here.
Gotcha.
No, as I said before, it's human nature to want to oversimplify the solution.
Right.
It's just like LA is finding housing for people. Oh, and that's going to fix the homelessness problem. Well, the problem still exists. It's just they're in boxes now.
Well, technically, they now have a home, so it's homelessness problem is fixed.
Yeah, that's right. But these people they're still drug addicted. They're still broken people. They're still traumatized. They're still not healed from that.
He's a good guy, yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a good reputation down here. For a white guy, that's rare. You're not going to solve these problems. You're not going to fix what's broken in these people with money or even rehab. You see how often people relapse. So there's no guarantee that these people will get better if you give them all the tools they need to get better. But if you raise the kids well and you love them and you give them the opportunities and the role models to live a better life, then most likely they'll have a better chance of that. But here's another thing that is controversial, but I think about this a lot. Look at the nature of our planet. The coyote eats the rabbit. The coyote doesn't eat the rabbit and have to like think about it and regret it or feel any guilt. It's going to do it again tomorrow. The hawk eats the snake and the snake eats the frog, and everybody just is ruthless. And some are winners and some are losers. The lion wins when it kills the antelope, and the antelope loses. That's the nature of the planet. So why would humans be exempt from that?
No matter how much you polish humans up, put nice shirts on, comb their hair, they still work in those ways.
I just think it's the nature of our planet. There are people who are going to thrive and their kids will go to college and they'll have great jobs and they'll great opportunities and they'll live great lives, and there are others that'll suffer and never have those chances. I mean, you want everyone to win, every kid that competes in the swim meet to get a trophy.
Well, that's what happened with the millennials, and now look what we got.
Yeah. So it's an ugly truth, but the truth is some people win and some lose.
So I don't think he's being as harsh there as it sounds, because I think he also realizes love is the solution, that you need to really care for people and bring out. He's just saying the way the laws of the world work is that some people, if you're not raised with a good family, if you're not as intelligent, the world chews you up and spits you out. And then it's a matter of, that's kind of the natural versus supernatural laws in Christianity. Is you have natural virtues would help you succeed in that scenario, but then some people fail on that, and you need the supernatural virtues, including charity, that sort of say, well, even if it's not exactly what you deserve, we're gonna, give you help. You failed, in the rules of the world, but you're laying there in the gutter. That is the way of the world. That is the harsh reality of things. But people need to have supernatural charity and help them. I mean, that's kind of the whole Christian ethos that Christ brought.
Well, it keeps you positive because you have a pretty upbeat, positive energy, Mark.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm eternally hopeful.
How are the cops down here?
The cops are great to me. I love the cops, but I'm sure there's other people that don't. But the cops tend to let people just do whatever they want. You'll see people smoking on a smoking their pookie pipe, which is crystal meth or crack, or with a needle.
Right.
And the cops roll by. They know what's going on. They're not looking to arrest anybody. As long as everyone's self-contained down here, they're fine with it. And this is the police station right here. This is the Skid Row police station, and here's drug addicts right here, right across the street.
Doing drugs right here.
They're doing it right here, yeah. And they don't have to hide from it. They'll do it right open in public.
You can't blame the cops either, right? What are they going to do?
No. The cops are just trying to do what they can. The jails are all full up anyway, but you're going to put more people in there, and now that you have COVID, made the whole problem so difficult.
And yeah, like you said, where are you going to put them? A lot of times, if they arrest somebody, they go through all this paperwork, and then the judge says, "Oh yeah, that's a non-violent crime. We'll just release them right back out after they did the drugs, they did the minor, theft, right back out on the street." So the police have no reason really to spend their resources arresting those people. In my world, they would clear the whole thing, set up a beautiful camp somewhere where they can really give them intensive rehab and mental health treatment, set them up in somewhere separate from people so you can actually use the beautiful streets of LA for something a little more productive. And these people aren't just going to OD and die, but they're not allowing the police to actually enforce those laws. So
For everyone.
All right, guys. So a little peek into a world perhaps you don't know. That's what I always try to do in these videos, is get you into a frame of mind, a way of seeing things, and perhaps a different way of looking at the world. Mark, thank you.
Peter, you do a great job.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
do an awesome job.
Thank you. You do an amazing job. Check out Mark's channel, Soft White Underbelly. I'll leave the links below. He has an amazing ability.
Peter's the only channel on YouTube that I watch.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
that's cool, because these are two channels that I like. But he's saying, watch Soft White Underbelly, see all these Skid Row stuff. And the other guy said, no, you do a good job. You're the only YouTube channel that I even watch. So I think it's a mutual admiration society there. But, I think I can, the rest of it, they just kind of close things out, I think. But, I think a lot to think about there for sure. But I think the overall summary is, this is not as simple as people think. Go get a job, or maybe the conservative impulse, if they want to brush it away, or the liberal one might be give them houses. Everybody is, if you're going to actually think about it and what the problems are and how to solve them, it's going to take a little bit more thought than that. It's going to take, for the people who are this broken, who he says, I don't even know if you can fix them. I do think involuntary commitment, get them someplace safe where they're not going to OD or hurt other people. You saw in Charlotte, in my state, a guy who was out of his mind. He thought there were computer chips running everything. He ended up stabbing this Ukrainian woman, and he didn't even believe he did it. He said, I think the computer chips, he called it the material, did it. Are you sure I did it? And I mean, that's how crazy he was. People like that shouldn't be on the streets. And so for them, and then for the next generations, as they're saying, it'll take love, it'll take stable families, but that's not easy stuff. And the layers upon layers are important to understand. I do think somebody who's talked to many thousands of people in these situations, he knows what leads to this. He's seen it himself. He's heard these stories. He said 95% of the time, their family trauma is to a level that you would not even realize happens among people. I mean, if you have the stomach for it, I'd say go watch some Soft White Underbelly. It is really tough to listen to. You pick a random person off of Skid Row and you ask them, about their lives. Tell me the story of your childhood up to this point, and adulthood up to this point. It's some of the word. It'll give you nightmares. My dad tried to watch it when I showed him, and he couldn't even get through a video or two, and he was like, "This is too much." It'll definitely show you about the problem of pain, problem of suffering in the world, and hopefully God is. I'm more of a hopeful universalist. Somebody, maybe I don't think everybody goes to heaven. I don't know about exactly how God's mercy will work, but I know he is more merciful, more loving, more just than we are. So if somebody in one of these situations lives an absolutely miserable existence, I think we don't have to worry about him. Oh, well, they didn't say the sinner's prayer, or they didn't get a water baptism, or, you know, when he came, he was showing mercy to those who suffered and preaching good news to the poor, helping them. They're trapped in sin. They're slaves to sin and to addiction and mentally ill structures of thinking. I think God, loves them and wants to have mercy on them. And that's the main thing. And I think Mark, I don't know if he's religious or all, but I think, that's what he came to see is really love, which is the Holy Spirit, is the solution. So, all right. Until next time.